So the sermon this morning is intended to be very, very practical. I wanted this sermon this morning to talk about how we behave in a certain area, and I wanted to provide some sort of rules and guidelines as to how to behave in this certain area, right? You know, one wise person once told me, if a man reads his Bible and fails to post pictures of it on the internet, did it really happen? Now, they say people live twice in our days. The first in real life and the second on the internet. The internet has brought with it the best and the worst humanity can produce. From the collection of all human knowledge to amusing cat videos. From communication across the world to human trafficking. From the spreading of the Bible in every language to the spreading of pornography. See, the internet is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and now it has become a necessity in life. All schools require internet to varying degrees, right? Watching videos, creating presentations, turning in homework. Most jobs utilize internet communication. Many businesses require applications online. Paying bills, managing finances, accessing medical care often requires the internet. Federal documents, government announcements, emergency responses, all the internet. And so unless you choose to become Amish, this is kind of just part of your life. And although it has brought a lot of evil to our lives, it has brought some good, hasn't it? So the question isn't really, are we going to get involved with the internet? You kind of have to. But the question really is, how should a Christian approach the internet? Like I said, people live twice. The first in real life and the second on the internet. On the internet, consequences can be easily avoided. And when you remove consequences, people begin to feed those sinful urges. They begin to act on their evil impulses. When you have a social media account that's anonymous, you can say whatever you want, no one will know it's you. And you can bet Satan will be whispering in your ear. We can't fall for this misconception that God doesn't care about how you behave online. The question we have to ask is, how do we serve Christ on the internet? You know, and I have 7 thoughts on how to approach our use of the internet in whatever form. Whether it's communication like emails, texts, video calls, social media like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, X, Snapchat, Reddit, information like Google, Wikipedia, news sites, entertainment like TV, gaming, short-form videos. And for those here who maybe don't use the internet much at all of this really does apply to real life just as much. See, the first thing I think we need to establish is that regardless of whether you're speaking it, writing it, or posting it, words come from the heart. Jesus says, "For no good tree bears bad fruit, nor again does a bad tree bear good fruit. For each tree is known by its own fruit. For figs are not gathered from thorn bushes, nor are grapes picked from a bramble bush. The good person, out of the good treasure of his heart, produces good. And the evil person, out of his evil treasure, produces evil. For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks." You know, what is in your heart? Is it good or bad? What you say reveals what's in your heart. When you say in person, what you say in person can be forgotten, right? You may say something and maybe no one hears it, or maybe they hear it and then they later forget it. You may say something online, a comment, a photo, and a video, and you may feel like it's temporary. It's not. Because even if you delete it, it remains on servers and backups on someone's screen. Once it's online, you should treat it like it's permanent. Your words have the power to heal or harm. And so online, words travel farther, last longer. So shouldn't we be more careful? You know, if I were to get on your Facebook right now, and I were to scroll through your posts, or whatever you use, maybe you don't use Facebook, whatever you use, maybe your text messages, maybe your YouTube page, whatever it may be, what would your posts say about your heart? If I were to go through your emails, your text messages, what would it say about your heart? See, the internet gives us this false sense of anonymity, right? People say things that they would never say face to face. If you say terrible things on the internet but not in person, then what that really means is that you're the kind of person that if you can get away with it, you'd be willing to say terrible things. That's what's in your heart, and that shouldn't be. The Lord calls us to a better way. God purifies our hearts through that powerful transformation by the Spirit that we receive in our baptism of faith. That enables us to draw near to Him with an honest and pure heart and full assurance of faith. And so really the first thing is before you interact with anyone or anything on the internet, you have to ask yourself, what does this say about my heart? And if words come from the heart, then we should watch our words. You know, the internet may not have existed in the days of the New Testament, but that doesn't mean it still doesn't apply. You have verses like Ephesians 4:29. Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear. Good for building up. You got a couple more verses. It says, let there be no filthiness, nor foolish talk, nor crude joking, which are out of place, but instead let there be thanksgiving. I love Ephesians 4:15. This is kind of my motto in life. Rather, speaking the truth in love. Truth in love. We are to grow up in every way into Him who is the head, into Christ. Because one of the notable byproducts of the internet has become this lack of empathy that some people have developed. See, when you're behind a computer screen, there are less to no consequences for what you do. It is much easier to insult someone over text, even phone, social media, because you don't see their reaction. Right? You don't fear the immediate consequences. You don't have to look at someone's face when they hear the insult. You don't have to feel the punch that they might throw at you for saying those terrible things. The boxer Mike Tyson, he has a wonderful quote. Social media made y'all way too comfortable with disrespecting people and not getting punched in the face for it. That's an amazing quote. Absolutely amazing. I had one best friend in junior high. He was my absolute best friend. He and I spent every day together of the summers. And he became what some people in here might know, an internet troll. A troll is just the term for someone who deliberately posts provocative messages with the intention of causing disruption and argument. It's someone who insults you, looking for you to argue with them. They find the joy in the fact that you're arguing and you're frustrated. And this best friend, he was my best friend, and I told him, listen, I'm just not interested in being friends with someone who insults me for fun. And he just said, well, it's a joke. And I'm like, I'm just not interested in being friends with someone who treats me like that. And if I could go back now, I would realize there were other reasons why he was acting out, and I wish I would have seen that. But verses like this, Proverbs 26, like a madman who throws firebrands, arrows, and death, is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, I am only joking. Sometimes we hide behind that, don't we? Someone who deceives his neighbor and says, I'm only joking. It's like a madman who throws firebrands, arrows, and death. You know, firebrands are darts that have fiery material attached to them. They're lit on fire, and you throw them at them. Throw them at things, right? And then there's arrows. Each one gets a little bit more deadly. Arrows, right? And not even just arrows is just death, figuratively, of course, spreading pain and not caring about the consequences. You know, the wounds don't go away just because you say, I am only joking. If you get burned by a flaming dart or you get shot with an arrow, it doesn't go away if you just say, I was only joking. When a person has injured your neighbor with lies, malice, insults, whatever it may be, just because you say you're joking doesn't remove the injury. The pain isn't less because you say it wasn't done seriously, it was done playfully. And I think I'm saying all this because I want us to understand the significance our words have. Our words have so much power. We say, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. We say that because we're trying to fight against the very reality that words do hurt. Now, ideally, you won't let words hurt you, but that's really hard to do sometimes. Our words communicate. They reveal from what's inside of us, whether it's hatred or love, foolishness or wisdom, evil or good. If our words communicate, then shouldn't our words communicate love? Because shouldn't there be love within us? I like the practical description of love in 1 Corinthians. It says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast, is not arrogant or rude. What if we were to place the word love with your words? Are your words patient and kind? Do your words envy or boast? Are your words arrogant or rude? Do your words insist on its own way? Are your words irritable or resentful? Do your words rejoice at wrongdoing? Or do your words rejoice with the truth? Too often, our goal, in person and online, too often our goal is to be right, when that's not enough. It's not enough to just speak the truth. It's speaking the truth in love. It's not enough to win the debate. It's getting someone closer to God. So before you post, you have to ask, is this speaking the truth in love? I don't think we should trade real relationships for digital ones. The internet connects us. We're more connected than we ever have been, but at the same time, it seems like we're more isolated than we've ever been. Finding friends on the internet is fine so long as you are very, 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 very careful. But at the end of the day, God has designed us to be in person, hasn't He? Right? Hebrews 10, it says, let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works. How? Not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another. And all the more as you see the day drawing near. He says, I want you to stir up one another to love and good works. And you can do that to the internet to a good degree. You can do that over text. You can do that over email. You can do that over phone. But Paul, or whoever wrote the book of Hebrews, said, we want to get together. Don't neglect to get together. You can't replace those real in-person relationships. God wanted His church to get together once a week at least. He wanted it to be their habit. He didn't want them staying at home and sending letters to one another. Because you have the apostles like Paul and John used the technology of their day, which was just writing a letter and sending it through the mail, right? That was how they avoided the face-to-face interactions, or how they communicated without the face-to-face interactions. But you have like Paul and John, both of them say, I would rather just talk to you face-to-face. I got one verse here. This is what John says. He said, though I have much to write to you, I'd rather not use paper and ink. Instead, I hope to come to you and talk face-to-face so that our joy may be complete. You should rather have 3 real friends than 3,000 Facebook friends or 3 million followers. You know, I feel like social media warps our understanding and tricks you, because if I post a picture of myself on Facebook and I get 4 likes, 4 people clicked like on my picture, that doesn't seem like a lot. But if I had 4 people tell me that I look nice, it would be an amazing day, wouldn't it? Use social media to connect, but it doesn't replace friends, church, face-to-face relationships. I'm happy to have internet. My family's in Texas. I'm happy to be able to communicate with them, but it's just not the same, is it? And sometimes we get into discussions, right? Sometimes we're talking to people we know on Facebook and this topic comes up, and sometimes we get a little frustrated, sometimes we get a little heated. I think it's important to be able to know when a public social media forum is not the place to have a conversation. It's important to know when you need to step back and say, you know what, let's have this conversation in person. Right? Some topics are just not best for public discussion, and sometimes when things get heated, it's better that you go in person so that there's a little bit, like I said, you're talking and you're looking at the person you're talking to, so I think you're going to be more hesitant to say the first thing that comes to your mind because there's real life consequences there. If you get into a disagreement with someone online, switch to a personal message or ask if you can meet them for a friendly discussion. Because it's a lot easier to get mad at someone when you're not looking them in the eyes. It's easier to say something that you shouldn't when you don't have to deal with the consequences immediately. And don't you think Satan's going to use that against you? So before you post, ask yourself, would this be better in person or in a private conversation? My fourth point is guard yourself. Proverbs 4:23, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Social media is very dangerous in that Facebook has come out and admitted, they did this in 2014, or they did this in 2012, and they admitted it in 2014, that they manipulated the news feed of 689,000 users. They manipulated what they saw on Facebook to test to see whether more positive or more negative posts would affect their emotional state. Let me say that again. Facebook conducted a test on almost 700,000 people on Facebook, manipulating what you saw to see how it would affect your emotional state. I don't know about you, but I don't like the idea that someone's manipulating me for a test. When you scroll through Facebook, YouTube, X, or sites like them, what you see is not random. It is curated by the company. These companies design their algorithms to keep you locked in, to keep you on their site, to keep you coming back. They put in front of you whatever keeps you attached to it. That means if what keeps you attached to it is what makes you mad, then they're going to keep showing you things that make you mad. Like if they show you a video of a police officer doing something absolutely terrible and it frustrates you and you watch the whole thing and you comment on it saying how terrible that is, well, that app is then going to say, okay, this person likes to engage with this type of content. We're going to show him more and more of this. And you probably won't notice it, but it's going to start showing up more on your feed. And you probably won't notice it, but you're going to find yourself being more mad and more frustrated. They don't care that you're angry. Facebook is not your friend. They don't care that you're angry. They only care that you're attached to it. They don't care if it affects your opinions. They don't care if it's true or wrong or whatever. They don't care that your day is ruined. They don't care that they're making you more anxious. They just want you attached so they can make more money. And I think one of Satan's greatest weapons is today his algorithms. Statistically, there is this massive correlation between social media use and anxiety and depression. If you're on social media a lot and you find yourself anxious or depressed, let me tell you, the first thing you need to do is reduce your use of social media. I bet that'll help. We need to limit it, and heavy social media is often connected to emotional regulation, impulse control, view of your self-worth. Social media doesn't just rob you of time, it robs you of your peace. And understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying get rid of all social media. I'm saying watch how much you use it. We have to recognize things like what Paul said. He said, do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good morals. Whatever is in your presence, whatever you are interacting with, it can corrupt you. Of course, this would apply to your phone, to your computer, to what you see. If something is a bad influence on you, you need to have that wisdom to be able to step away. You can't avoid if you can't avoid the bad influence for whatever reason, because I'm sure most of us can't avoid the internet altogether, then you need to set boundaries. Ephesians 5 says, Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. The internet can drain your day. You can spend hours just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I think we need to watch how much time we spend on this. Jesus himself said, says, if your right eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and throw it away. Job himself said, I made a covenant with my eyes. How then could I gaze at a virgin? And I don't think it has ever been easier than today to find inappropriate things. And I think we need to be careful what we see, what we consume. And if we develop these habits of finding the wrong things on the internet, we need to set firm boundaries with ourselves just out of self-preservation and to serve the Lord. Find other things to do with your time than just scrolling through the internet, because you just scroll through the internet and Satan's going to tempt you. If you're on the internet frequently, whatever is your vice, whatever is your weakness, Satan's going to use it against you. Whether it's finding inappropriate things, whether it's giving you a good argument, whether it's showing you things that are just going to make you think bad things or get anxious and frustrated, whatever it may be. When you're on the internet, you need to ask yourself, am I guarding my heart for the Lord? We have to avoid hypocrisy. Don't live one life online and one life offline. Some act holy at church but hostile online. Integrity means being the same person everywhere, at work, at home, behind a screen, at church. James says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Titus says there are some who profess to know God but deny Him by their works. You can go online and be a completely different person, and that's dangerous. No one's going to know but God. God knows. God sees. We have to be careful about how we present ourselves on the internet, because sometimes we might present ourselves in a way that boosts our ego, right? I think it's absolutely, if you go on Facebook and you post Bible verses and spiritual thoughts, I think that's awesome, and I think that's really cool. I think that's good for you, but we have to be careful that we're not doing it from a prideful place, right? We have to make sure that we're not trying to present ourselves as better than we are. We have to make sure we're living out the words we write, not just posting it to make ourselves look good. Don't let your faith be performance, right? It's fine to post Scripture, but make sure it's shaping your life, because that's what Jesus criticized the Pharisees, right? If the Pharisees were around today, you know that they would be on social media and they'd be posting these things constantly. Right? This is what Jesus said to the Pharisees. He says, woe to you, Pharisees, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. For you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and all uncleanness. Notice this one. So you also outwardly appear righteous to others, but within you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Before you post something, ask yourself, would I still be living this way if nobody ever saw it? Consider perception. On the one hand, we don't want to be hypocrites. But on the other hand, we also have to be aware that people are going to see what we do, right? On the one hand, we don't want to just be for performance, but on the other hand, we have to be aware of how we come off. We need to strive to be an example to others, for other Christians and for non-believers. 1 Peter 2, keep your conduct among the Gentiles, which means non-believers, honorable. Keep your conduct among them honorable, so that when they speak against you as evildoers, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of visitation. He says, when you're among the non-believers, make sure you don't slip up. Right? He's not saying act better among them than you are personally. That's not what he's saying. He's saying be careful about how you come off towards non-believers, right? Because they might use it against you. They might use it as an excuse to not listen to your words. See, your posts, your words are going to shape what people think of you. especially how non-believers think of Christians. When they know you're a Christian, they're going to be watching how you behave. And if you slip up, they're going to use that against you. Now, I'm not saying that, I understand sometimes mistakes happen. We are imperfect, and God forgives us. But it's very difficult to share the gospel with someone when you're the person who makes the inappropriate jokes, when you post immodest photos, when you comment rude insults. You're going to give the impression that either you're not really genuine or that God's okay with your behavior. And either way, that's not good. Jesus wants us to do good and so that others can see it. Let me rephrase that. Jesus wants us to do good to let others see it, not that we're doing good specifically so that others can see it. Our goal is not to do good so that they can see. Our goal is to just do good for God. But at the same time, God wants us to do good and other people see it. Jesus said, "Let your light shine so that others may see your good works." This verse here says, do good deeds so that they can see it and they'll think more positively of both you and the gospel, right? It's not that we're doing it only because they're watching. We're going to do this whether they watch or not, but if we do it and they see it, that's a good thing because it reflects well on us and the Lord. More importantly, the Lord. Before you post, ask yourself, will this reflect Christ well? And my last point, remember who you represent. Colossians says, whatever you do in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through Him. Every click, every post, every comment reflects on Jesus. Represent Him with grace, truth, and self-control, because you don't just have a profile, you have a platform for sharing the gospel. You are showing the world what Christian integrity is, whether in person or online, whether you do it well, whether you do it poorly. Let your digital presence point others to Christ. Don't post things that could undermine people's view of Christians or Christ. Because whether we want it to or not, people are watching you and they're going to expect you to behave as a Christian, right? And if you go against that, when you claim to be a Christian and you're behaving not as a Christian, it's going to reflect poorly, not just on you, but on Christianity itself, on our faith itself. I want everyone this morning to consider their internet presence if you have one, right? I guarantee you everyone in here uses the internet in some form, some more than others. Whatever it is, whether it's your Facebook, your X, your Instagram, your emails, your texts, whatever it is, ask yourself the ultimate question, am I giving God glory through my use of the internet? And I'm going to go through my points one more time, just because I think this is really important. Words come from the heart, therefore, when you post, what does this say about my heart? Watch your words when you post. Is this speaking the truth in love? Don't trade real relationships for digital ones. When you post, ask yourself, would this be better in person or in a private conversation? Guard yourself. When you post, ask yourself, am I guarding my heart for the Lord? Avoid hypocrisy. When you post, ask yourself, would I still be living this way if no one ever saw it? Consider perception. Ask yourself, will this reflect Christ well? And the last one, remember who you represent. Ask yourself, am I giving God glory through my use of the internet? This morning, the lesson was intended to be extremely practical. And I hope I've given you some good advice on how we can serve the Lord in this modern digital age. This morning, the invitation is going to be for those who have any urgent prayer needs or need to confess. Come forward as we stand and as we sing.